thing that it could possibly be is that there is another celestial body up there that
that's what I think.
That never shines. So it's a body that does not cast any light, that doesn't display any light. And the other thing about it is that it absorbs light. So that would mean that it's invisible all the time, except on those rare occasions that it passes in front of the sun. Nothing else makes sense. Those are the only two possibilities. I don't believe in a globe Earth. I don't believe that there was some umbra or penumbra, some other dumb, stupid, fake pseudoscience stuff.
Yeah.
It had to be one of those two.
So, thank you for putting this in my brain. But I agree. Now, the Bible is very clear. The moon produces light.
Produces light.
Okay, so if moon produces light and the earth never becomes between
the moon
and the sun, right? And it produces light. What if when there is a crescent moon, that same
celestial
body is what's causing that?
Is what's causing the crescent, trying to make a circle.
Just like the eclipse.
Just like the eclipse.
Or I have something that might be more simple. Just like how as a monthly cycle, light to dark, dark to light.
Right.
But if the sun also has a longer one, and every once in a while, because there is an eclipse like almost every year, sometimes it's over water and we don't see it. Supposedly.
Right.
What if there is a cycle that the sun has and it's doing its own thing? Because like there are sunspots or whatever. What if it has its own thing? Like the moon has craters and clearly an asteroid didn't come from behind the earth and hit it. So what if like a sunspot is like the sun's version of the moon's crater or something? But I think it could be either a cycle or, like I said, I think it could be something passing behind the sun, because
I've heard a similar theory.
I think the Egyptians might have had a thing with one of their worships of the sun. If you ever look at the sun disk, there's a circle inside of the circle. And I think it was supposed to represent the eclipse. It was like their God resurrected or something.
So I think it's Hinduism that has the same thing. I can't remember the name of this creature, but it's personified with the big. It's all black and it's personified with the sun in its mouth.
Yeah, head comes and eats the sun.
Yeah.
Now here's my okay. So, and you can answer it. If it's something that comes from behind the sun, right? That's Jay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably.
Yeah, that's Jay. So if it comes from behind the sun and it darkens, how does it darken it? How does it darken if it's behind it?
Well, like I said, what if it's something within the firmament itself, and like the sun given light? So what if the sun's source of light is being like, what if the firmament is like a lampshade and this thing, there's something that goes and covers it?
Yeah,
that's the only way I could explain why you won't see anything. But there's also something I did discover. This guy, he did this experiment with lenses.
Yeah.
From when it rotates a certain way, it darkens. So that's another way. Like there's a certain clear see-through, but if you rotate it, it's dark.
Yeah. So what would be the lens in our case then? You think it's firmament?
It could be a certain. I think it might be something with the firmament, honestly, because like it's like when the sky looks red, like, you can't really.
Yeah.
We can't really explain why the sky looks red and why it changes these different colors. Maybe it's just something with the firmament itself.
Go ahead.
No, because see, we were talking about a couple things earlier that I've never even
Postulated. Yeah.
Lewis said he thinks that because we only ever see one side of the moon,
Only.
and it always looks the same.
Always looks the same. It never differs.
Is it possible that the moon's not just a light? It's like a mirror, and we're actually seeing the Earth?
Reflection of the Earth.
I did hear that before, but
Yeah.
my thing, I've seen a guy make a map out of it, but it's just like,
Not sure.
If the moon is rotating, and if it's a mirror, that would explain why if you go south, it looks the opposite.
Opposite, exactly.
Go north this way. But my only thing is like I haven't seen anybody show me a good enough map that matches the shapes, because I've been on a plane and I can tell you like they don't. I've seen what Florida looks like, and every time I see a map, it just doesn't look like Florida to me. So it's like I haven't seen a good representation using the moon.
But it could be just far enough away that it's obscured enough that it's just a shadow.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that the moon, despite what we've been taught, I don't believe the moon is actually a globe. I still think it is. I think it's a disc.
I do.
Imagine a coaster, and that's what it is. And then you have to imagine it tilted a certain way. So it could be that what we're calling land masses is just, it looks that way based on the angle and tilt of that disc in the sky, its relative position to the Earth. That'll make it true, but that's just it's just another thing.
Oh, my only question, if the moon was to be reflective, then it would be the same thing as the firmament. It reflects the water. I mean, the water reflects the firmament, right? And it's blue. Well, what's stopping it from reflecting color as well?
I think the answer to the blueness of what we experience in the firmament has more to do with the properties of the firmament than it does with anything else.
Yeah,
right?
I believe.
And not from a reflectivity perspective, but from a clarity perspective. Does the scripture liken the sky to a gem? It does, right? A sapphire. Yeah. And sapphires are blue. So what if the firmament is made up of sapphire-like material, which would have a blue hue, and because of the luminosity of the sun, that blueness shines through. But because the moon is not that luminous, then all you see is the actual stars, the blackness around it. But that is pure speculation.
Yeah. So I got another question. Just your opinion. Me and Lewis already talked about it.
Yeah.
So we know in areas like Alaska, right? They have a certain period where it is always light outside.
Always light, yeah.
And then certain period. So we know the sun. Of course, the sun, the moon, the stars all have circuits, but the sun, there's no way it can be the sun
because
Go ahead.
Yeah, it can't be the sun. We need that map, but it can't be the sun because the sun, like let's say on the screen. So I'm gonna point right here at that @ sign. So that @ sign, that is Alaska. In order for us to say that Alaska gets 6 months of daylight, that would mean that the sun is really only traveling around Alaska, and we know that it's traveling around the entire Earth, right? It's going across the entire Earth. So then how does just Alaska, right, have 6 months of sunlight?
Well, I think I saw a dude explain that really well. He actually went to Alaska and filmed the sun for a day. And if you look at it, it's like the sun's really going like this. It's not ever going straight in a circle. It's going up and down. And basically, a lot of the occult symbolism, they believe the people that worship the sun, they have this symbol. It's like, it looks like this infinity thing.
Infinity symbol, but it's sideways, yeah.
Well, they believe in the spring, when it's spring in the northern, like the Arctic, it drops closer and it's just closer to the center.
Okay.
The side ring is allowed to get it. And that's why in the southern or the South Pole,
Southern hemisphere, yeah.
4 hours, because the light is not way over there. But in the summer, it goes more toward the equator and then everything else around. And in the north, it has that darkness for most of the day. And then the rest of the, like, what we call the equator would be lit. And then the southern part has some light, but it just believes like the circuit is not just one circle. It goes in, it rises up, then it goes out as it lowers down. So
Yeah.
So
I think that
I thought that's the one of the two. Only other possibility. It either is like you say, it's like a spiral that goes in and then goes back out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
In and back out. The only other possibility is if there is a body that is reflective. In other words, if there's something that is like a mirror almost, and light is shining on it, and it is in a fixed position above that. I mean, that's the only thing I can
Above. Oh yeah.
think.
Above,
That area.
Yeah.
there is this speculation. I'm not sure if you heard of Nibiru or Planet X,
Yep.
but there's been people that they believe like the old ancient cultures talked about this planet that once in a while you'll be able to see it and once in a while you can't see it. But there's like in the north west, a lot of people take pictures at sunrise and it seems to be a second body right next to it. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not lens glare, it's like bigger.
But what if it was lens glare, but the lens that is glaring off of is the firmament? So it's at a particular position in the firmament where I don't have a lighter on me. This might work. So if you turn your flashlight on your phone, right, and then you shine it at a reflective surface, so you're going to get it appears that there is more than one.
Yeah.
Right. Now that's not. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. But
No,
the point that I'm making is that the relative position of the sun to you, the observer, and it's that the degree of rise that it has, it may be positionally close to the firmament in such a way that you can actually see what looks like two bodies, but it's one. If that makes any sense.
No, I can see the example in your light. It shows another circle. So
Another circle, yeah.
And that picture I took.
So
did you look at that sorry picture that I took?
Add that little extra circle right next to it. I saw it.
That was at the peak of it.
Yeah.
And it yet had a circle in. Tell me, read that verse and tell me what you see that I just sent. Ecclesiastes 12:2. Read it and tell me what you see.
While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain.
You see anything different about it?
It says they be not darkened.
No.
Well, you got a sun, you got a moon, you got stars, and you got this fourth thing called light.
The clouds also.
Light.
But as far as lights.
Oh, light itself. Yeah, because light was created separate from the sun and moon.
So
that's why I said my theory is I think something can pass behind the sun, because I feel like there's a light source giving the sun light and something can pass behind it and you would still never see anything pass in front to block it. But behind it, the sun's light is too bright for you to see what's behind the sun. That's why you don't see stars. So if there is something passing,
if you're saying that it's passing behind it, so this is the sun as we see it. I'm standing on this side, right? I can see the sun. If it's passing behind it, I would never notice. I would never know it was there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't obscure my view whatsoever.
Exactly.
I would never know it was there. So that doesn't account for any eclipse or anything.
I also believe this. I believe like sometimes when you look at the moon when it's full and you see it during the day, it looks like you can see the sky through the moon. I think it's sort of translucent, like you can see through.
So I believe that I think the moon is more spectacular than we think.
I think it's digital, like somewhat.
It is a semi-transparent luminary. It is a disc, and you just confessed it. I've seen it. We've all seen it. That at daylight, you can see the sky behind the moon. The moon is is transparent. Are you guys in a full moon cycle right now?
No, I haven't seen the moon for a couple days.
I
Let me
know
show you. This
the
is
I
what
think we're in a full moon cycle, but we can't see it.
let me see if I can get this thing. All
So
right.
it's like a light bulb, but it's just
It's literally
like almost like a disc, you think?
I think it is a flat. Well, I won't even call it flat. But what
So-
I think it is a disc. What you got?
So if I hold this paper up, right?
Yep.
See how something passes behind it, it still creates that shadow. I think
Yeah.
the light is there, but if I put something that's kind of solid, but you can kind of see through it.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
I think that's one way.
But no. Let's rock with that right there, though. That paper is the sun, right? And then there is another light source behind the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Then but the sun's not transparent.
Yeah.
Well, because we have it.
But you see how the paper.
It's not transparent.
Where's the light coming from? Is the light emanating from the front
looks
of
like
it or from the back of it? If it's emanating from the front of it and it's transparent, then its transparency would have nothing to do with whatever passes in front of it. However, if something passed behind it and it was transparent, the light would not be the light would not be diminished.
It would still shine.
It would still shine.
You could see something passing behind.
You could see something pass behind it,
but it wouldn't darken it out.
It wouldn't darken it out. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
And that's why I believe, like, because the sun is meant to govern the day, but like we already said, there was a first day and night without the sun there.
That is correct.
So day and night is not, it's just governing the day. But I think the sun could just be like literally exactly what the Bible says. It just governs the day. But the light itself is this source, which comes from, and this is why I also believe there is 3 firmaments, because maybe it's a part of like the heavens.
So how would you describe the 3 firmaments? How are they laid out?
I believe it's somewhat like the layout of the tabernacle. There's like a holy of holies, which is the third.
Heaven.
The outer there's the inner court, the outer court, and then the holy of holies. And I believe like we would be considered the outer court. The inner court is where the angels, stars,
I agree with that.
And then the holy of holies is the third. But like honestly, I can't say if I do believe it's like a vault shape, because in Amos I believe it says the firmament is a vault. So I mean, a vault doesn't have only one shape. I can't really tell you what shape it is, because even if it had a corner, you couldn't really tell if we're in a giant container. If it was the shape of a house, like with certain colors, if it's a bright thing, you can't really see where corners and creases are. So it could literally be beams, because the Bible does talk about like beams, and I believe it's like
it's bowed. He calls it bowed.
Yeah,
beams. It could be a whole structure, and we're just in it, and we're so small we can't really. You would never see.
Able to discern if we're in a corner or not.
Yeah,
you can tell, because in the grand scheme of things, we're so much smaller than it is. Yeah. So I didn't know where you were going with the firmament. That there's
what if that fourth thing, the sun, the moon, the stars? He didn't say he said put the sun, the moon, and stars in the firmament.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the firmament. Okay, so I'm gonna go where you were saying. So I think the outer courts is the earth.
Okay.
I think the inner court. Right now, we're not even into the holy place or the holy holy.
Right.
The inner court is our sky.
Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. Then there's going to be a door, right, which leads into the holy place where only the priest could go. Right.
Right.
And what does he say when the Lord comes back? I saw a door's going to open. Right. 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 And then above that, between the holy place and the holy of holies, which I think is the third, is a curtain. Mm. And he says he stretched forth the firmament like as a what? As a curtain. Mm-hmm. So I think that's in, where would that light be? If now hold on. So it might not be in the holy place.
No.
I mean the holy of holies.
How do you mean?
It may be in the
in between.
Yeah, because the sun, the moon, and stars will be in the inner core.
In the core, yes.
Yeah.
And because he mentioned 4 things.
Right.
Sun, moon, stars, and light.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a door or something there. Well, hold on, there's a door between to go from the inner courts
into the holy of holies.
holy place. Maybe occasionally
that door opens.
Or maybe it's opened and it just passes, and when it does pass, that light that's in there, I don't know, but that's true.
Wait. Let's run with that.
I believe you.
That door opens. The light is behind the luminary sun. The light, that door travels over the sun.
I'm just saying.
What
speaks of 4 things.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something and then I'll be right back.
What if? Yeah. This is gonna sound way from someplace else, but what if the moon? Sorry, not the moon. What if the sun during this total eclipse, this solar eclipse? What if the sun is paying obeisance to the Most High, and it's turning off? I mean, we are talking about things that are way and far out. We're talking about a door that passes over. That light is so bright.
But if it turned off, why can you see the
corona?
Yeah.
You know what you see?
What?
That open door. What if that's the open door that you see coming across?
I don't know. I'm not. You might be right. That might be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I'm thinking about that. I saw some wild cornball video where the guy was saying exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
He wasn't calling it the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
He says, what if there's another light that is behind the sun, and that light, he's saying that what we see as our sun is actually the other light casting itself on our firmament, and that's what we see. I
don't know either. What if that door is the very door where that Alaska, that door is open there constantly.
Ooh-wee.
and then 6
now,
man, like I said, we're
way out there.
We're throwing stuff out there, but here's what we know. We know
we're being lied to. That much we know.
I have a theory, and it's based on Psalm, because like you're saying about the door. The Psalm says that happens. So like when it runs its circuits, it says he comes from he comes from a place and he goes somewhere, and I feel like
place
he runs like
that one.
The sun runs like a.
He says here
chain or
tabernacle. In them set a tabernacle for the sun, verse 4, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoices as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof.
Yep.
So there
on my laptop, so if you share something, I can see it easier because I was on my phone.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're just throwing that stuff out there. I mean, I just think that there's some things that they can't see. We come to this conclusion that we know, right? That the earth is never between the sun and the moon.
Never.
Ever.
Cannot be.
So therefore, there's a lot of things that we can understand, or at least begin to understand, knowing that the earth never casts a shadow.
I'm gonna go through the book of Enoch. I know we all have our opinions about the book of Enoch, but the thing is, so I'm gonna say it like this here. I think the Lord's been dealing with me on some things. I'm dogmatic on some things. Like the only way to truly understand the Most High is from the Bible. But there are other cultures, and I say I make these emphatic statements because I am an American. I'm in the West. I've been indoctrinated into Western so-called Christianity, and I have to ask myself a question. What do people in other regions think?
Yeah.
Who is their God? Who are they calling out to?
So we
I was gonna.
go ahead.
I heard what he was saying. I was actually gonna say that, like, like I said, I don't really hold the Book of Enoch anywhere near Scripture as far as like, but as far as something that I feel like could be a source of some type of information, they do talk about the circuit of the sun and moon and
Yeah,
the
they
wall,
do.
and is actually really well explained. It makes a lot of sense if you like if you never really understood. It even talks about the phases of the moon and different celestial bodies, like their duties. And I do think it makes sense. Not sure if it's true, but I feel like it's a better explanation than what we have believed from like mainstream media. If you read what he says about the luminaries portion of it, a lot of that seems to make way more sense.
Yeah.
I want to hear what he had to say about it, but like I'll never fight over the Book of Enoch, but I do think that luminaries part of it, they talk about some things that's like even the mountains. There's certain areas of the earth that has these mountains, and then it talks about this area that has this fire, and then this.
Yeah.
You remember that map I showed you with the middle? It has the Rupus Nigra mountain.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that could have something to do with the eclipses too, because if you ever look at a magnetic field, like when you take like shavings of a any type of piece of metal and you put a magnet in the middle, it makes this certain symbol. It makes like you can see the magnetic waves,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's something that we don't really take into consideration on the NASA website and on the weather website. You used to be able to do this thing, and I wish they hadn't taken it down, but you could change the world views from a globe to like a flat earth map. And when you look at the patterns of the wind and the patterns of like the poles, there can't be two poles on a flat earth. There's no such thing as two. There's only one. And that's why we always look for the north, because if that magnetic mountain is a real thing, and if you really consider Isaiah 14, when it says he wanted to ascend the mount of the congregation and it's in the sides of the north, like there's only one north on a disc. There would only be one north. And he said he wanted to ascend the heights. And then my thing is, if it wasn't a possibility to really ascend the heights, then why stop the tower? Like, why?
That
I
part.
think
That's where I was going to go about the tower.
So
Yeah.
so when
because remember what God said after. He said, if they stayed together with one mind, then
They
nothing
were
would
able
be.
to accomplish whatever they wanted. Yes.
so can I ask you, just asking your opinion, Ruben? You've studied it. Y'all, both of y'all studied it more than me. So I pitched now. I'm not going to say what shape the Earth is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Because
circle.
from well, when I say that, I'm talking about
In its totality.
in its totality. In other
Yeah.
words, it could be a ball as far as I know. I just know this. Like my head is like a globe.
Yeah.
People only live on the face.
On the
They don't
face
live
of
on
it.
the sides, the back, here. They live on the face of the
Of
earth,
the earth.
right? So
Yes.
I'm not worried about what shape it is. I know when God looks down on it,
It looks like a clock.
it looks like a clock. The sun, the moon rotate around it just like a clock. And I know it's a tent. It's a tabernacle, right? And at the middle of that is something that doesn't move. It's called the North Star, the North
Yeah.
Pole, right?
Yep.
And it seems like the water or this garment that he stretches out,
Mm-hmm.
it's held up possibly by the North Star. I'm not saying it is, but it's almost like
But
it's like frozen on Earth, and it's stretched forth, and it comes to a
head
at the
at
North
the North
Pole.
Pole.
So when you talk about the North Pole, that's what I'm talking about. When I say North
Yeah.
Pole, I'm talking about North Star. Really,
Yeah.
is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Polaris.
Okay, and then anyway, I lost my train. Y'all go.
Well,
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I believe it could be like a fountain, like because how did the water drain after the flood? Like I believe it's like a sink in the deep. There's these things that can open. It drains the water and it like cycles over the top. Like the water cycle is not only a thing that happens inside. Like that's another thing most people never consider. If you ever realize that condensation is on the glass when there's a change in temperature, well, rain and all that stuff, it has to be some kind of glass to get that in an experimental form. So what does that in mass? But I
Yeah.
think it's probably just like a water system. Like there's drains in the very deep. It drains out and it probably goes back up and then it can fall out. God puts it in different storehouses, different rooms, get different waters. It cleans it, cycles it. And for all we know, like what happens if you want to clean water? Like if there's water that's contaminated, you have to boil it, right? And people always say like what was the purpose of like a hot place like hell? Well, it also plays as a thing that can clean water. There's these
Yeah.
vents underwater that boils the water and it's like cleaning.
Gets the
It's
salt
this
out.
cycle
So
going
when
on.
it comes back up through the springs in the
It's just
mountains,
pure air. It's just pure water.
it goes back. Fresh water goes right back into the salt
Yeah.
water, and it just completely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I believe that. So
Yeah. Have you ever seen the water underwater
Yes.
and how there's
Yeah.
this layer of water underwater
There's
and it's so
videos.
thick.
Yeah,
Go
there's
ahead.
videos of a guy. He is in a submarine of sorts, right?
Oh, with the
And
water that basically sits still.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's under the ocean
uh-huh.
and he sees a body of water that a fish touches and has ripples, and he's trying to go into it and he can't. He's just bouncing off
Really?
the top of it. Yeah.
Oh, I
And I
got to
think
see that.
I think
Yeah.
the firmament is exactly like that. I think the firmament might be under us and over us. And I
So
think at a certain point we just can't cross.
agreed. So talking about the shape of the earth again and how we don't know definitively what it is. So I'm going to go out on a limb,
Okay.
not too far on a limb, because it's in the Bible, right? It says that Judah was scattered to the four corners of the earth.
Four corners. Yeah.
Now,
Corners.
going back to what you said earlier, Ruben, you said that it could be that this thing is so large we don't even realize that we're in a corner. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I have seen maps. I'm sure I've got some on my computer here, but I've seen maps where it is literally it's a square thing.
Yep.
Inside of it is a circle
Yeah.
with an ice ring around it.
Yeah.
And you've got your home is within that,
I think that's what I think it is.
and you've got angels on each corner.
See, God don't. When He says four corners,
That's what he meant.
I believe there's literally corners and I believe there's because what is the boundary he set for the waters? It can't be the shore because
Ice wall.
the wall. So I think it's kind of like a square. Like I'll try to draw it
Square.
with the guy from
with
South
a
Dakota.
circle engraved into it because it said he engraved it like a compass, like.
Yeah.
And then he pressed it down like a signet. That's the textures of the mountains, the ridges, whatever.
Consider that the part of the earth because he calls it the circle of the earth, or is it
Yep.
It's the circle of the earth.
Oh, that's the earth is
It's
the
the
square,
square.
but the circle of the earth
It's the face.
is the face of where everybody lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another thing I've been considering lately is when the Bible says land of the north and things like that. What if, like, because if you really look at the continents, it seems like there's regions. You can split it into four if you look at a map. There's four main land masses. They say there's 7 continents, but if you really, I don't know if you believe the whole Pangea thing, but I'm not too.
Pangea, but I do believe that I believe in one landmass.
Yes, the Table of Nations when it says during Peleg, the land when it was the
During his day,
Yeah.
the earth was separated. Yes.
So I kind of feel like I've seen some older maps and I think they might be right. Because remember there was the garden, but where specifically was the garden. It was east in Eden. So Eden wasn't the garden itself. The garden was east
Was
in
the
Eden. And
yes.
I think we might be thinking of the Garden of Eden as just this, but what if Eden was this whole area, but east was this garden? And I also been thinking about like where would north technically be? Because if you look at the way our map is, north from us on a ball, like there's only the north goes this way, but if it's a disc, the north would be considered the center, right?
Yes.
So when you say there's, if you look at certain maps, like the one that I showed you, it has the four rivers around this mountain, and there's this. And according to some, there are some stories, even explorers that went there, they said the water around this mountain in the center of this earth, it moves so fast that boats can't like sail there smoothly, like they crash a lot.
I've heard about.
Airplanes tend to lose like they say the magnetic pole causes compasses to spin crazy and you won't know what direction you're going anymore. And I feel like the movie Kong tried to explain that a little bit
Right.
because they went to the center of the earth.
Right on.
And I think some people think center like inside, but what if it's literally the center of the earth?
Control center. Can I share a map real quick?
Yeah.
Uh, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Is it showing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Even the four
That's
angels.
the one I know. Yeah.
That's the one I think it.
Sun, moon, and the sun and the moon, and you can see the pole star from the top. And every flat Earth map has this void in the center. You notice that? I'm gonna show you another one. Hold on.
What do you mean void?
You see that?
Marcus,
The center bit.
The center bit.
Yeah, you're talking about where the North
There's
Star is.
nothing there.
except there's some maps that do have something in the center. Marcus, do you still have the ones I sent you?
There's some. I think I put them on my external hard drive.
Lewis, if you can you pull up Rupus Nigra? It's called the Black Rock. And I believe that's where the company gets its name from.
That's funny. BlackRock is the devil. Tell him what I said.
Nigra.
Okay, what's it called? Rupus?
US.
RUPUS. Niggers. It is right there. Stop.
I believe that's the magnetic center.
Okay, so I have this map. I have this map in totality. Hold on, let me.
Yeah.
I have the whole map. Hold on, let me get the whole map. So yes, I have heard that before. That there is this magnetic mountain. Is that it?
So that bowl, right?
Mhm.
That is when the waters were released, right?
Mm-hmm.
That bowl filled up.
Yes, it did.
Basically.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find something because I actually
Here you go.
think there's something
Hold on.
interesting that was in a movie that most people probably overlooked. I don't know if you saw the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I saw the first one.
Well, I believe it was the second one. On the second one, there's this giant sundial in the middle.
Yep.
And the land mass itself rotates and it's around. Yes, that's the one.
This is it.
Are you able to zoom in at all? Yeah.
Let me look.
It's not very clear.
They have some of.
So that's what you mean, 4 parts.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look at it, what if that's the 4? Like, what if that's like kind of how it was divided amongst certain people? Because it looks to be like central areas. And mind you, you could also see land masses not covered in ice where our Antarctica would be. And there are maps where they have creatures at certain areas. So that's actually where we would have Antarctica. But now there's like, what if access could have been like changed or whatever? But like for all we.
This map to you.
What are those land masses at the far end?
Well, that's what they're trying to tell you, that there's other. So we use this term extraterrestrial to refer to things that are outer space.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what the word says.
It's celestial and terrestrial.
It's terrestrial. It's earthly.
Terrestrial, that's land.
It's extraterrestrial. That means there's extra land. They've been lying the whole time.
And that's why they say they believe there's things frozen in ice under Antarctica and they're waiting for them to come out because the Pope and all these leaders go and they meet under like in Antarctica at this church they built for some reason every year. All the world leaders go there. Like it's weird. Like why go there?
They're
So
going there because, well, let's, okay, here's another one. What they're going there, I believe, you can tell them what I said. I believe that they are worshiping the devil. I
yeah.
believe they're worshiping the devil. I believe they are the synagogue of Satan. And what they are doing is going into his habitation to commune with him. He loves darkness. He loves lies. He loves hate. And those are the things. This is a much better picture. And those are the things that I believe that they're doing when they go into in these underground places. But real quick, before I lose my train of thought on these underground places, I mentioned earlier to Mark that people have speculated that there are passageways, particularly in the Grand Canyon, that could lead you all the way to Africa.
Have you not?
I
Have you not heard?
any evidence to support this, so this is just pure speculation from Lewis. But
Have
I
you not
heard
heard?
that there are drawings and carvings and like hieroglyphics and that sort of thing in these areas that speak about Egypt. The other thing that's also interesting, if this is true, is that NASA, they have a preservation arm of their fake organization, and what they're doing, and they've got parts of the Grand Canyon off limits. You cannot go there. Those are the parts where those tunnels are. Now we just talked about a drainage system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
See, now that makes a little bit more sense about this tunnel. I'm not suggesting that it's true, saints, whoever y'all listening.
Haven't they also mentioned that the rock formations in the Grand Canyon have been exposed to years of water or days of water?
Yes.
In the form a certain way?
Yes.
They have to have a certain amount of
The
pressure.
way, yes. But here's another something. I won't bring that up. I won't even bring that up. I won't even bring that up.
Sure about that?
I'm positive. I'm telling myself we're not bringing it up.
It is.
Well, actually, I'm not bringing it up. But the point is that there's a drainage system on the earth.
Yeah.
There's water that is literally above. That's what the scripture says, right? Because he separated the waters from above the earth from the waters that were below the earth. So there is water both above and below the earth.
So what happens when you get into your car?
Yeah.
And it's a humid day.
Yeah.
And you don't turn on the air, the heat.
Right.
What happens to the inside of your windows?
Inside the windows begin to sweat.
They begin to sweat.
Yeah.
So if we live within
a closed system,
is that going to produce clouds and rain?
It's going to produce clouds. It's going to produce rain. It's going to produce all the hydrophobic properties that we see, or phenomenons or occurrences that we see on the earth: snow, rain, hail, sleet, etc.
And didn't he water the ground when he first?
So when he first recreated the earth, the scripture says that that water came from below the earth to water the ground, and there was no man to till it. So water comes from under the ground. Also, in a closed system, you can enjoy reasonably a consistent temperature, but it's because of the flood that we don't experience a consistent temperature. If dinosaurs were real, the pre-flood would have been the perfect environment for them to exist, right? Because we know lizards will grow to fill the size of their container, right? Yep. And so if you have exactly
not only that, but the sun is what ages people.
Yes.
And so someone living to be 969 years within a closed environment that has been protected by water.
Yes. And we don't have that water anymore.
No, because at the flood,
the waters came down from above and from below.
And so we're not protected.
Changes. The pressure would have had to change inside the container once the windows opened as well to allow the water to come in.
Absolutely.
But I sent two pictures. One is a zoomed in version of that map that you put earlier.
Okay.
and the other one is the Hunger Games movie map. And if
Uh,
you look at the Hunger Games movie map, it's actually really interesting if you really take a look at it. It's split into these zones, and they
we're
split.
not surprised by that, right? There's 12 zones
Yeah, and think about. I feel like
in a day.
that would
How many months in a year? 12.
does it, and then they call it the zodiac signs. If you look at each sign, they have like one with monkeys, and like they had different things on the movie with like different animals, but I think it's supposed to be like a hint. But if you look at, there's the structure in the middle of that
In
map,
the middle. That's
and
right.
it's a metal building, and it's pointed up, and it's like a jagged shaped building, and also in the movie it would rotate
It
at a
would.
certain time,
It
and it
would.
would different things would happen at a different time in this movie. And they were in this dome. There was a dome above them. This floor is rotating. Around them is this island. There's this wall at the very edge, and there's water in the middle surrounding this middle island. And I'm
Yes.
like, I feel like that is like a hint at what it's kind of like.
Oh
So
no, they're telling you the truth.
so here's okay. So I'm gonna put two and two together. So we know the elite
Yes.
people in the world know this,
They
right?
know this truth. Yeah.
But yet Hollywood is reproducing it.
And who owns Hollywood?
So
They have to tell
somebody's got to, they got to tell these people who are writing these stories.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole system is rigged.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the people who run it and the people who perform in it are all the same people. I don't care about Denzel. I don't care about Will Smith or any other people that look like us. The point that I'm making is that your Adam Sandlers, your all these folks, they're all the same people. They're all the same people.
Mhm.
They're all the same people.
Yeah.
And then
So
let us come in. We'll just continue to feed them this darkness,
You
this
know,
evilness.
See, I know, like
but all the people are the same.
when you are a movie star,
Yeah.
I don't care how big you are,
Right.
and you say anything against the
Anything.
Jew,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The so-called Jew,
Yes.
they
You are canceled.
I had
An uncle or something?
it was my grandfather's uncle. He was a
Okay.
movie star,
Okay.
and he almost got kicked
Canceled.
out of Hollywood because he said something against the Jews of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So of course he didn't. So I mean,
Yeah.
of course he backed down.
He backed down.
But
But the point is
yeah.
that the reason why they're able to show us these things like in the Hunger Games or any other movie where it seems like they are dropping knowledge or giving us some truth, it's all framed in make believe, right? So the person who's watching it says that ain't real. That ain't real.
Yeah.
Because what I've been taught is that the Earth is a globe.
Mhm.
The sun is 90 million miles away.
Yeah.
And the Earth and the Moon have a symbiotic relationship, and it's 450 million miles away.
Yeah.
And so whenever I see a flat plane that looked like it might symbolize a flat Earth, I'll know right away that that's make believe because it's on TV. I believe that's the game. I believe that's what they're
I had
doing.
read somewhere where they did an interview with a guy and a woman who were, let's call it Luciferians or devil people that
Yeah.
actually worship Satan.
Worshiping the devil, yeah.
And even in their twisted ways, they have a way of that they can do things.
Yeah.
And so it was like a month ago I saw this. They can't lie,
They can't do that.
but they will tell you what it is, and you're in a position to believe
To
it.
believe it or not. I think the
I can't
devil.
tell you that this is poison, but this is poison, this is not.
Yeah. So there you go.
And there you go. And then when you believe what you
And
believe,
you
which
believe what you believe.
which is why we have Hollywood.
Exactly.
Tell them the truth. Tell them exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We'll give you exactly
what it is.
But we'll present it in a way, i.e., entertainment.
Yep.
For what it's
Yep.
entertaining.
Yep.
And now you believe it for what it is. Now you won't believe it because you've been
You won't.
desensitized to the truth of what it actually is.
That part.
So now when it presents itself, when we have
Actual things happening.
coming up from the depths,
Right.
revealing themselves, and this is actual.
Oh, this is a
beast.
movie?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Is this punk? Are y'all punking me?
where's the art? Well, not even know.
But they start with children. You think about this as a kid, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
So an animal is talking. Okay.
Immediately.
Superman is levitating and going up, right?
Yeah.
And they create these cartoons for children at a very young age, and they're told and you understand that these are cartoons. This is not real.
And who's telling them?
Yeah.
Their parents.
And the parents are telling them.
Yeah.
And so when you go to the Bible and you see Balaam talking to an ass, or you see Jesus ascending up to heaven,
walking on the water,
it cannot be.
That's
not
real. That's fiction.
There's a green screen.
And where's the green screen?
This is what we have. I was just on Instagram yesterday, and I see the idea that people cannot disassociate the difference between a video game and real life.
Right.
Daily.
Yes. I read an article where some person talking about video games, some person said that she experienced psychological trauma because at a kill, it was like Call of Duty or whatever it was, at a kill, they were, what's it called? Teabag.
Yeah.
And she said she experienced psychological trauma. The creator of the game was explaining to them, this is just make-believe. Why are you experiencing some sort of traumatic experience from the game? You knew going into it was a game. The point is that we do not possess the capacity as a race, and there's only one race, human race. As a race, as a whole, we do not possess the capacity to differentiate between what's true and what's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. That's what the Word of God is for.
Even if you think about like when video games first came out, if you look at the graphics for Nintendo 64, when it was out, you thought it was the best graphics out.
When I was growing up.
Dang.
Like looking back at things like
the original
3 lines on the screen, and that was it.
You had the Atari.
Oh, no, this was before Atari.
Before Atari, Pong was.
Oh man. See, I can't go that far back, but
3 lines.
It's crazy though. If you really consider when those things first came out, that was the best graphics. You see, PlayStation 1, best graphics. PlayStation 2, it looks real. That looks just like LeBron on 2K. Now you see nowadays games compared to then. Our brain, like right now, if something else came out, we might look at today's tech and be like, that don't even look like them like that.
Exactly.
And while you were talking about the whole behind the scene Hollywood thing, it made me really consider something that they do. Do you know what's the most effective color to fake CGI?
Oh, the fake CGI. Green?
Blue.
I'm listening.
So if you want it, so they have a green screen, but a more effective screen is a blue screen. And it's actually what the space agencies use as their backgrounds in the weather service. They have blue screens.
Stop. You are right. You are absolutely.
So consider the sky though. What kind of stuff could they do?
All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go back to Hunger Games. Sorry, folks, if y'all think that we're being a little too worldly. We're not trying to be worldly, but this is a place where we can really just give really good examples. In the Hunger Games, whatever her name was, Katniss realized that the sky wasn't real. She realized the sky was a projected image.
Okay.
It is. I've heard a lot of theories about Project Bluebeam.
Mm-hmm.
Heard of it.
Where they can cast an image, and you, depending on the image itself, would not be able to know if it wasn't real.
Oh,
so that's the Seattle pictures that you sent me.
Those things. Those type of things. Yes.
But it's going to get more.
It's more. It's not.
It's
flying around making the shapes.
Trust me.
A beam shown on the firmament and it reflecting back down on the
So they can make anything.
Have you seen the digital zoo? I forgot where it's at, but they have a zoo with no actual animals. Everything is holograms.
Really?
these people are walking and a whale jumps out of the ground, splashes the ground, and they're running like they had a polar bear walking up to this girl and she thinks it's real. She's trying to pet it. There's a digital zoo. Like they do a hologram zoo now. They already have this stuff that's capable of doing all that stuff. It's like a hologram zoo.
Whenever we see it on the screen, it's only because they've already perfected it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Like I
tell
remember
you. Yeah.
it was like what 2000, probably 3, 4. My family went to Universal and they had the Shrek ride and they had the Shrek hand look like he could come out and grab you for real.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's regular movie theater 3D that look you could tell it's just the movie 3D.
Virtual Zoo ZD show in Dubai.
Okay.
So oh man, that's okay.
So let's talk about the image of the beast. That
Oh,
it should
yeah.
both speak and cause it as many as would not
Worship.
the beast.
So they could technically, whoever the beast is in this image, could make them, especially if you have a mark and they know where you're at, could appear in your living room.
Yeah.
If you don't bow down and worship it,
Yes.
the image has the ability to kill you.
To kill you. Yes.
Oh.
No matter where you're at.
Yes.
So did you know that they have, and this I saw this in middle school. This was like 2006, 7. They have holograms you can touch now. Like if you didn't know, they've had it for a while, and the first dude who created it using a Nintendo Wii controller. And because the Nintendo Wii responds to motions of the hand, he figured I could make this hologram that you can touch. They have holograms you can touch, and they've had it for over 10 years already. And there's also this desk where this guy, he has this sensor. And if he puts his hands in this desk and moves his hands from wherever the technology is, it can lift stuff and move it. Like this guy, it's called a touch responsive desk or something like that. But this desk, like if you had an apple, he could move the apple to the other side of the desk and place it down. So they've had this stuff for a while. I actually saw it on LinkedIn. They're trying to promote it to make it a main thing. Like they've had a table where you could put your phone and slide an image straight up off the table, and like Iron Man does. But it's just odd because speaking on the image of the beast, have you ever heard of the 100? They want to make a bunch of statues, but they call it like the selfie giant or something like that. And they said in all the major cities of the world, not just the United States, of the world, they want to put these statues up, and they're like 100 feet tall. And you can go to these cameras and scan your face and put your face as the image on this giant statue. And they want to have it everywhere. And it's a part of like global unity. And they've been talking about it for a few years. Supposedly it was supposed to come out this year or next year. So they have, I feel like that could be a start of the image of the beast. It can move, it can turn its head, it can pretend it's walking, it can speak. So I gotta find the actual name, but I saw it a couple years back. Let me see.
Why do I keep getting reminded of the Terminator?
Because something called Skynet was in the news very recently.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember because I heard Skynet and I just said whatever. But you just
I know it's Sky Sports, but Skynet, or just the idea of how technology has now like evolved to a point to where you can't distinguish between the two.
Listen, I believe, and while I have no personal experience, I know that we have technology that far supersedes what we think. Like,
I know that for a fact because
think about the movies that we watch, right? And how Hollywood has spent untold millions of dollars to create scenes that look so real.
Mm-hmm.
They look so real.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell looking at the screen whether that's an actor. Your mind tells you, well, that's clearly not real.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't discern by your optics that one's not real.
But yet they convinced the whole world in the late 1960s that man walked on the
Walked on the
moon.
moon.
Now look what we have.
Exactly. They did that. They did that.
We still got people today that still believe that.
They believe that the International Space Station is somehow hundreds of miles above the surface of the Earth, above out there in outer space, traveling around the globe. Somebody wrote to the space station and says, "Hey, listen, you guys have been up there for decades. How come you never showed us no pictures of an eclipse from the station?"
I was in the
we don't have windows.
I was in the Navy from 82 to 86. And
What?
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what that was a response.
Yeah.
It was on Twitter.
Yeah, I was 82 to 86, and I worked with weapons. And our weapons, nobody understood how far that was.
Advanced they were.
They were
80s.
advanced in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
So now, how many years later? 40 years later?
I watched a video of a military guy explaining that they have the technology to bore through anything.
Mm-hmm.
They can bore through a mountain. They can leave no dust, no nothing. It is pristine. The way this thing is, it's a laser that cuts through the mountain, and it softens and solidifies the edge or the surface as it's going through. They've got miles and miles and miles of tunnels underneath this country, and they're all for military.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about technology. They can bore through a mountain in no time. It doesn't take them any time whatsoever to do it.
Ruben, has this already been built, or are these like prototype pictures?
This was from 2021, and they said they were supposed to build it last year, but they didn't do it yet. But this is something that they want to put in 21 cities all over the globe, according to what their thing says. But they said they want to put this image up, and it can mimic anybody's facial features. It can speak like anybody's voice. It can move. It can do all type of things. But I think that could have something to do with the image of the beast. Like, here's this statue, dance, like, you know.
This could be it.
What better way to control the world by having
These things
around?
Yeah. So another thing we're talking about last days and marks of the beast and such. One of the things that I heard about the eclipse that CERN fired back up.
Oh yeah.
CERN. It's a acronym, but it's a particle accelerator.
Okay.
They actually fired the beam Friday.
Gotcha.
They fired several beams.
Okay.
And the question was,
Well, not only that, they sent rockets up that same day too.
and not just any rockets, they sent rockets that have sound equipment allegedly to measure the ionosphere, right? So they sent these particle beams. Huh?
Open door.
Open door. So we're getting really trippy right now, folks.
But that makes sense though if we talk about when that eclipse happened that the door is open.
Yeah.
And if someone may know that what's really
they're
true.
trying to open a portal to get to the other side. Why else do you need this particle accelerator? You know what a particle accelerator does? It takes and it moves, it accelerates I don't know, atoms or whatever matter at such a high rate of speed that they can begin to manipulate it. I think they're trying to cause a rift. We're talking this space age stuff, right? But what else are they doing? They're trying to bring in their Antichrist. You've read the protocol of the Elder. That's their whole goal.
Oh yeah.
It's to bring in their God.
The
protocol,
I believe,
learned elders of Zion.
And
believe
they
that's
say
what they-
exactly how they're going to take over the world.
They tell you, they spell it out as a long, boring read. It is worth your time.
I believe that's how
That's how they do it in education, how they do it in religion,
How they false flags,
all that.
all that stuff.
They spell it all out.
I believe when the angel is given the key to the bottomless pit,
Right?
they just get the formula on how to do it right.
Exactly.
I don't know how much of CERN you've looked into, but do you know what it's built on top of?
What's that?
It was built on an old temple to Apollyon.
That's what I heard.
Really?
And
What I heard.
This is all
That's
new
what I
to
heard.
me.
Yeah.
and that's the crazy thing, because that's everything I've researched. Like in the past, lately, you go look it up again, it's not there. But
There. Yeah.
I heard about it a while ago, and you used to be able to see that it used to be an old temple to Apollyon, and other religions called him Zeus. And but if you look at the statue in front of CERN, it's doing the dance of the cosmic destruction.
Did you happen to see the videos of the celebration of the opening of CERN? Pure demonism.
Really?
Oh yeah.
They have
Hey,
Baphomet. They have it. I'm telling
Y'all
you,
got to start sending me
it's
this
pure
video.
demonism. It's pure.
I'm
demonism.
falling behind.
Just look up what statue they put in front of CERN. It's Shiva doing the cosmic dance of destruction. You know, the 6 arms.
Yeah, Shiva. Is it Shiva's destruction?
Shiva.
Yeah.
Shiva's
The
destruction.
cosmic dance of destruction. And the crazy thing is, the god of destruction is whose temple they built it, like the thing that comes out of the pit and brings destruction.
Yeah.
That's whose temple they built it on.
Yeah.
So I find it like another thing is I did this research a long time ago, but when I was doing the research, I looked up the name Apollyon and I started looking up all these root words and well, Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to manipulate time and they believe there's these time cycles or whatever. But Hasbro's, you should really look into that company because they make kids toys and they make a lot of shows that your kids watch, like they're associated with Transformers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you really look into some of the names of these things, well, the highest Transformers name is Metatron, and that's supposed to be like Satan. And
You got Optimus Prime.
and they have this destroyer planet, and
Yes.
he's supposed to be awakened if they summon this planet. Their Cybertron is, there's also the largest like Transformer is this destroyer that comes up and he brings darkness to the world.
Yeah.
And then they have a movie called Dark of the Moon. They have one called Revenge of the Fallen, and these things come up and they go in these pyramids and they resurrect these ancient giant aliens.
Yep.
And it's like they've been telling this same story in like almost every movie.
Over and
every single movie has this same story. And then also another thing that really caught my attention, and it kind of connects with the whole dome. You remember that year they said they hit the moon and it rang? I'm like, I don't think they actually hit the moon. They probably hit something against the firmament.
Yeah. And
like that layer that we spoke about underground, well, the same way, I think that's what CERN is actually for. Like, I don't think CERN, like, I think that door they're trying to open, it could be the pit. Like, but I've heard some interesting thing about the belief of the location of the pit itself. Some people believe it's under the pyramid, but I believe it might be what CERN is doing. But if you didn't know, they're building a bigger version of it. They said it's not powerful enough. They're trying to build a bigger version. And the thing that they did with this CERN is they put welcome in every single language ever known. Like they put welcome.
They were expecting someone or something.
Yes. In case the deity from this religion comes up, it has a language that it speaks. So they put welcome from all these different regions of Earth, from ancient to modern, all around this particle accelerator. And when they build the bigger one, they pretty much want to do the same thing. But I find it interesting that the cosmic dance, if you look at the statue, there's this ring around it with these little things on it. And they believe that that's a portal that's going to be open. So CERN itself is going to be the thing to bring a portal. But
there's a lot of people that believe Mount Hermon is where the gates of hell is.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, I don't know whether that would be a place.
That's the question.
It's north. I think it's in. I want to say Syria or Lebanon. It's like of Israel.
They said Jesus was facing that when he said Matthew 16 verse 18.
Yeah.
And he talked about the church and the gates of hell not being able to defeat it. They said he was supposedly facing that way, but I've heard that too. But I think it's because I honestly believe like who the Antichrist will be. I think it will be somebody that resurrects because it says he comes from the pit, or at least a spirit from this man.
It says
Well,
the beast that was and is not and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and goeth into perdition.
Yep.
and I think it could be honestly Nimrod. I've heard it, but for myself, after looking into it, I could see the first dictator could also be that last guy, because all the mystery religions are based on him. If you look at the Egyptians,
But you know
they
what?
worshipped him.
I don't know. I don't know if that's fair, right? Because I don't think Nimrod was a dictator. I know we hear that a lot, but what we see is just a guy who was able to unify the whole world, basically, and they got together and they built the tower.
Yeah, well, the thing is about Nimrod, I feel like I do feel like there's other stories about him written, because
That's true.
most of one of the most common things that a lot of people agree on is like all these deities from religions all over the world have a common origin, like Zeus and Jupiter and all
Right.
these different gods. So, but Osiris and like Ra and all these deities from these religions, they actually put it together that these guys were the same person. Like they believe Gilgamesh from the Epic of Gilgamesh is Nimrod, and I think that's where most of the extra stories of how he really was and why it calls him a mighty hunter,
Yeah.
and like he had defiance against God, but because we do know that he tried to defy one thing that God, like he said, because God flooded the earth, he wanted to build a tower where they can't be drowned, and like so I think some of them come from extra biblical texts, like the book of I believe the book of Jasher talks about it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like I don't I don't look into that too much, but I have read it, and it does seem like the story of Abraham. Like I don't know if you've ever read the story of Abraham in the book of Jasher, but they said like supposedly him and Nimrod were at odds, and like it's an interesting story. Like it's definitely an interesting story, but I think if you don't already know the Bible, you should kind of not
Yeah. Don't go
into it.
No.
Yeah. Stay in the script.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the book of Jasher is mentioned, and a lot of extra books are mentioned in the
mentioned.
Bible.
Yeah.
I think really all you can do is once you know your Bible,
Yeah.
once you're studied in your Bible, you can read those books, and if you don't see contradictions from a historical perspective, you can begin to start to say there's something to it.
Yeah.
But I would never go into those books if I wasn't studied in my Bible.
No, you have to be grounded, rooted, and grounded.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'll tell you something that I did learn recently. So I read it in the past, then I read the Bible. Well, I read the Bible first, then I read it. And then I just started reading the Bible again from Genesis. And one thing I never noticed is in Genesis, when it's talking about Abraham's family, it mentioned his brother died before his dad.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, in this, if the only way you would ever, there's only one other place it tells that story, and it's because his dad was a servant of Nimrod and his army. His brother was burned because Abraham wouldn't stop serving a different god. And then his dad was killed because Abraham broke these idols, and his dad kept like trying to cover, but he made basically him choose between Abraham and serving him as a god. And it's an interesting story, but I think that's where the other cultures, it kind of adds up to the belief in some of the other cultures.
So one of the things that we don't have, right? We know that the Most High told Abram to leave his father's house.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. We don't have any of the backstory, the why behind it, and we don't have any of the story about what was going on during that time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, so me, Lewis, I'm going to say it for me, it's disingenuous for me to discount other stories when I haven't taken the time to read them for myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, I don't want to be that person that says, well, that's not true, unless I have definitive proof that whatever the story is not true. But until I have that proof, I need to do my own research. We encourage you to do your own research. Start with the scripture. Start with the Bible. Spend your time in the Bible. Read it, study it, believe it. Challenge it. Question it. Question what you think you believe. Question what you've been taught. Question what. Just ask questions. God doesn't have any problems with us asking questions, but we have to be asking questions from the perspective of seeking the truth. And if we are not seeking the truth, if our only goal is just to amass knowledge, the scripture makes it very plain. It says, knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifies. So if you're just trying to get more knowledge, then you're wasting your time. But I believe that on this journey, you cannot, you should be looking for truth. Truth should be paramount. Nothing else matters but the truth.
The true worshipers.
True worshipers, the scripture says, are going to worship in spirit and in truth. And you're not a true worshiper if you're not a lover of truth.
You have to seek truth.
You have to seek it. As hid treasure.
Yeah.
Proverbs is all replete about looking for wisdom and truth and searching her out and finding her. And when you find her, holding on to her, don't let her go.
Why? Because when you seek in truth, who is truth?
The Most High.
God is truth.
Yes.
Christ is truth.
Yes.
So you're not just seeking after
an abstract idea.
You're actually seeking after him.
Him. Exactly.
So
exactly. I think Romans 1 really explains a kind of a lot of what we discussed tonight, and is the whole people who think everything is that we're saying is just conspiracy. Well, read Romans 1 starting at verse 18. It says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Yeah. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. For God has showed it to them." So it tells you God showed it to them
from the creation, clearly seen.
And it says
understood.
But the craziest part is the next part. If you really pay attention to what it's saying, it's describing these exact people, the they that we mentioned when we're talking about these people. It says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse."
Exactly.
Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. So they knew God, but they glorified him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to the corruptible man, and to birds, and to four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness, and through the lust of their own hearts to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. So if you really think about who this is talking about, it's talking about that same group has been doing this stuff.
It's been doing it.
And it even says they're unclean and they're giving up to like things amongst themselves. And normally we always hear the rumors, the Diddy parties.
You got to keep.
It's always that group. They've been doing that stuff for years, and it's like being passed down. They know this knowledge. It's like things they already know. There's a God. They choose to deny him.
Ruben, you got to keep going, man. Verse 25.
And they dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who change the truth of God into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen.
And for this cause, God gave them up to vile affection.
Yep. God gave them up to vile affections, for even their women did change natural use into that which is in nature.
It's all connected.
All that's connected.
When you consider, we had this conversation the other day. Well, I'll reserve this for. I'll talk about this later. Well, I'll talk about it now.
But go ahead.
I was just gonna say we were having this conversation the other night about Sodom and Gomorrah, and Sodom's sin was not homosexuality. I'm just gonna read. I just read the Bible. I just read the Bible. Ezekiel 16:49. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy, and they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore, I took them away as I saw good. What was the problem? Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness. You said they're all connected, Romans 1.
Mhm.
They're all connected. These things led into other things that caused abomination.
The vile affections.
But the problem was not the vile affection. The problem was their
The
pride.
root. The root.
root of it was their pride and fullness of bread and abundance of idleness.
Yeah.
Just want to say, he's not saying he agrees. Because
Right.
somebody gonna watch and be like, "Oh, he said it's okay."
No
That's
one
not
said
what he's
that.
saying. He's saying the root.
Okay, the root of it. And so be careful if we have prideful tendencies. If we are easily offended, I'm gonna just say,
No.
you feeling all right?
Yes, it's in 10 hours. I gotta be back.
Oh, okay.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was the next time I was gonna see you, so
Oh,
I couldn't let
no.
that slide.
It'll be a while, brother. But I'll talk to you online. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Be safe.
All right, Jay. Later.
I'm still gonna be on it.
Oh,
I
you
know.
gonna stay online? Okay.
Yeah. So, what were we just talking about?
We were talking
Vile
about
affections,
these vile affections, all
Yes,
these things.
all these things lead to vile affections. And so, if you can't take criticism, if you can't take any constructive criticism, that sounds like pride to me, right? And the pride, the scriptures always says that pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And if we are not careful about our pride, then that will lead us into areas that we say today, I will never do that. But it'll lead you there because of your pride.
Well, he says it leads to vile affections. All those things.
All those things.
So what's he say in Colossians 3:2?
Hold on, let me get there.
What's he saying? I mean,
I forgot one part of the verse that's critical.
Go ahead.
Let me just read Romans 1 verse 28. It says, "Even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind
That's what
to
he
do
said.
things which are not convenient."
Convenient.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what happens. That is the trajectory of someone who will not take correction.
Mm-hmm.
That is the trajectory of someone who will not submit to the authority of the scripture. That is the trajectory of someone who kicks against the pricks, to coin a phrase from the scripture that Paul was going through.
So if you go to Colossians 3:1,
I'm going there.
if you then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the
Right hand
of God. Set your affect. You don't want to be turned over to vile affections.
Right.
Set your affection on things
Above.
not on things on the earth.
Yeah.
Right. And then when he shall appear, guess what? Then shall you appear with him in glory.
with him in glory.
So
Yes, sir.
your those things lead to vile affections.
They do.
Because the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things.
All things. Who can know?
It's interesting. Real quick, I'm gonna say this because we did have a topic before.
We're not.
No.
This was it. Tonight.
Okay,
we'll do it next
Okay,
time.
cool. But I wanted to make sure before I get into this part. But I noticed that that's the trend. Like we see it every day, so you can't deny that scripture is true. Because name one artist that started off and you're like, oh, that guy's gonna be the guy to stand out against the industry. 5 years later, horns, satanic symbols everywhere, and they always start off this. They look like this innocent guy that's just raw talent. They just want to make it, and then suddenly you start to see a little bit of compromise, and then suddenly this gangster rapper has a purse and he's wearing a skirt, and like that's another part. It's like the pride builds up once they get the fame. This pride builds up. Then they get the women and they get all these things, and
Fullness of bread.
they start to get bored with the women, and then they start to dabble in the Diddy parties.
Yes.
It's just like it's a thing we can witness even today, and this is something that was written thousands of years ago, and we still see the same trends, is because these people are worshiping the same deities. They're going after the same like secret occultic groups.
Yep.
It's the same religions.
And I think it's important to understand they're not lying when they say when they win their Grammys or they win their Tonys or Oscars or whatever. I want to first of all thank God. They're not lying. They're not talking about Yahweh, Elohim. They ain't talking about him. They're talking about, but they do want to thank their God because they are worshiping. They're of the synagogue of Satan. Let's just be clear.
Mm-hmm.
They're of the synagogue of Satan, and that's where they want. That's where they get their power. It's the same power that Satan offered Jesus.
Yeah,
it's the very same power. Nothing's changed. His playbook works. The devil's playbook works, and it works almost every time.
he's the god of this world.
He is.
Yeah. Oh, I actually learned something interesting. It's dude
Can I
that
ask you something? When do you work? Because all you do is watch videos. It would
learn new stuff.
It would take me forever to catch up to some of the stuff that you've been.
If I'm honest, most of this is stuff I've been seeing since high school. It's just I was more, before I was like truly in the faith.
Yeah.
It was more like conspiracy. Just know this, that. So it's stuff that I've learned over the last few years. It's just, but now I actually work at home. Like, because I work the weekends here where I live at Patch, and I teach.
You don't have to explain. I was just giving you a hard time.
No, I honestly, it's like, it's my way of like, I feel like it's a way to kind of connect to people, because some people, they don't understand scripture, but if I understand something they can say, I can point them to a Romans 1 and be like, well, the Bible already predicted the stuff that you think you're unlocking now.
And see, I don't know that I can do. See, that for you, that's good, because Paul said, "I become all things to all men that I might win some." Right? Yeah. With me, I have to be careful about what I set before my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because that's an area that I'm weak at. So I'm glad somebody does it, so you can at least point me to the stuff I can watch and I can't watch.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I don't watch everything, because some of the videos, like even some movies, every time there's a scene and somebody's doing witchcraft, I turn it down, because you think they made up that language in the movie, but that's actual demonic language sometimes.
They did not make it.
Yeah, I'm like, that's something that always blew my mind, and I talked to you about it one time. Like even the Lord of the Rings, where do they come up with this whole language for the orcs? And there's no way, like, this stuff is actual languages that they're getting from somewhere, and it sounds just like the demonic stuff in other movies. And this guy, he a believer, but he makes the same languages. So I can acknowledge languages that sound similar. I can tell when something's Latin. And those things all sound like they have the same origin, whether it's a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. They all seem to have this common sound to it.
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, I believe they're all demonic. But yeah, I was just saying, this video I watched, he was actually talking about the occult involved in sports. And it's a touchy subject with a lot of people because they love sports. But he was like, he broke it down like this, and it actually made me really think. If you saw a group of people painting their bodies, dancing with their shirts off, screaming at the top of their lungs, crying when they see things appear, you would think it was an occultic group. But he was like, if you really took a look at the crowds at NFL games and you compared the two to the people in witchcraft, they do some of the same stuff. They have rituals. They slam themselves through tables. They cause self-harm for a football game. Like Buffalo, that's the known thing. They slam themselves through tables. People go and they bring food. They cook and eat together. It's a great thing that brings people together. And then every halftime, they just so happen to do some kind of demonic ritual. And in the Super Bowls, they do all these rituals suddenly, and we don't think anything of it because it's just associated with a sport. Well, he actually linked it to this video, and a Mason was explaining how baseball was actually started by Masons. And he explains, like, if you look up the weight of a bat, there's a particular number that the bat weighs. If you look at the shape of a field, it's called the diamond. Well, if you think about the shape of the field, it's meant to be the compass. And this is a guy, and he explained like every single number in baseball. How many strikes?
3,
3,
Innings?
9.
All those numbers are numbers that they use heavily in the occult. And he was saying it was strategically put like that on purpose. 3 strikes or 3 outs, and I think he said the bat weighed 33.3 ounces or something, like the original bats. That's how much it was supposed to weigh. And it's just like there's so much more thought behind those things than we really think. And then also it's even the reason why like every base, it's a certain shape, and there's a reason why if you look up the distance between first base and second base, and there's and it's all those numbers are significant numbers in the occult. And he was saying like the occult actually made it, and if you look up little league sponsors, they're normally people involved in the occult because they're watching them since they're this big, and they see certain kids that have potential, and they'll offer them scholarships in high school, and they'll offer them, hey, I'll fund your kid if you just keep him going to little league baseball. And it's pretty interesting. It's like, but he also did say that doesn't mean you can't play a sport, but behind all that, like if the kid goes in unknowingly, that's why it ends up being that when they get to a certain part of fame, they get into the same contracts, it seems, as music artists. Like you see LeBron wore a dress, and you see Westbrook wore a dress, and suddenly all these manly 6'5" plus dudes are wearing dresses, carrying purses. Is because they're low key going through the same rituals. And then look at their circles. Yeah. LeBron's one of his best friends, Jay-Z, and it's like these things are all interconnected. It's like because they at certain points you serve the same gods. Like once they get to a certain level of success and fame, that's why they cut off CJ Stroud saying Jesus, and they cut out who was it, Neymar's saying Jesus, and it's the same thing. Even in the sports, we always look at the music industry, we see the Kanye doing weird things, but we don't look at the LeBron doing things.
For guys like CJ Stroud, because
Brock Purdy's,
they do everything they can to change him. Mm-hmm. And he'd be better off just taking that first year of money and getting out. And I don't know. I agree with you, though. I agree with you.
Ruben.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. To Ruben's point about LeBron James, I was actually pulling a Ruben. I was reading something one day and watching a video where it actually broke down his days when he was in Miami, and in his first couple years in Cleveland. He would always have this pregame ritual, lack for better words, where he was doing like these multiple things where he was blowing smoke. He was throwing hand signs, and they actually did a breakdown of every single part of that pregame ritual was a homage to a certain deity.
Yeah,
Which I'm sure Ruben know that already. I'm sure he saw that. But to that point, it validates the point that there is a ritual that he was doing. It wasn't just in music. Even when his circle gets exposed, it's what he was doing. And then there was an interview, I think when I was at 24, it was probably 2 years ago, or maybe recently, he referred to himself as a god.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how that comes full circle. Sorry about that. Go on.
King James.
Yeah.
Was Ray Lewis kind of the same thing? Because Ray Lewis used to do this weird dance, and
I noticed the Ray Lewis dance, but honestly, he claims to be a believer, but you never know because it's always the people who say they're believers, then they're doing the Kanye West thing. Like Jesus is king one day, and then the next day he's with Marilyn Manson. So I think with Ray Lewis I can't really tell because I haven't even looked into that. Yeah, honestly, I haven't even looked into it, and I'm not a person that thinks every single thing is something, but you never know, man. It could be. That's something you probably got to look into, but nah, Ray Lewis, he seems to talk about his faith like fairly often, and of course, everybody's different. They're on different, they're at different speeds in this race, so It could be some things, but I also think about it like this. I don't automatically X out every single
Yeah.
person because they're famous, because I'm like, if God had to call me out of sin and I had millions of dollars and the same temptations as them, it would probably be a lot harder than where he found me at. So that's why, like, in a way, I kind of feel for him, and I feel bad for them. Like, I don't want
Oh
a
yeah.
bunch, like,
It's
I don't want.
sometimes
So
it's just ignorance.
yeah,
Some
it's like,
yeah.
cause like even the Kanye thing, it's like I don't defend anything that Kanye does. I just say I can't. I'm not gonna fully make a decision myself, because it could be somebody that is battling right now. But do I think he's on our side right now? I honestly don't think so. But
Was Saul on our side?
exactly, no. And that's the thing, is that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's like there's people that I'm like, maybe he's either deceiving, and I tend to lean more toward that side, or he was so into it. Now, if he is trying to get out of it, we don't know who's the Christians trying to get him out of that circle. Like, it could be somebody that's like a TD Jakes, and they're like, oh yeah, you can still do this and be that. And maybe he needs a person in his corner to be like, no, like, you gotta come out of that wickedness. Like, you gotta step out of that. And he's in that Babylonian system. So I think it's different when it's somebody's famous. Like, we can't really know, but when somebody's claiming Christ, and they're claiming they're a God, like Kanye just did, I don't think you can really argue for that. But it is some celebrities, they seem to be like they were in this demonic thing, and then now all of a sudden they're falling off the scene and they're kind of pulling back, and it could be a battle, but it does say it's harder for a rich man to enter a kingdom than it is for a camel to enter the eye of a needle. So I that could be the reason why. It's like they think they can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, it's called the deceitfulness of riches.
That's what it is.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of believers think that they can handle the money. And I'm not saying there's some that can't. I mean, Joseph of Arimathea
Who's a rich man?
was a rich man, and he's the one that went and begged the body, which is probably
From
pretty
Pilate.
bold
Yeah.
to get the body of Jesus.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, if you don't help people, if you don't give to the poor and do all those things when you're poor and you don't have nothing, you ain't going to do
Yeah,
it
when you're rich.
when you're rich.
That's not going to happen.
That is something that is a process that you're going to do no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, my biggest thing is the wisest person that ever existed outside of Jesus Christ himself, Solomon.
Yeah.
Look at the path he took. And if you're not as wise as Solomon, and
Better
my
beware.
chances are you probably not going to do too well yourself.
If you're a man, guess what?
Yeah.
You know that right there. I mean, it was women.
It was women.
Mm-hmm.
Women.
It was women.
That's
Yeah. And one thing I always said, and it's not an arrogant thing, but in reality, I used to tell people, like, of course, especially before I was married, I was like, I was broke, and like just playing football alone, like ladies used to come and try to throw themselves, and I'm like, I always thought that was weird. So I can't imagine having a lot of money and
right.
being an athlete and being this famous singer. I'm like, the temptation's hard enough as a regular dude.
The temptation is so much greater there at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, like minding your business, and
Yeah.
and even then at that point it seemed like the rich people, the men start throwing themselves in this world, like the men come.
Yep.
But it's very odd, but it ultimately does connect back to they're all a part of the same thing. It's like they all make it seem like they're not. They try to hide and come and proclaim the name of different deities or different beliefs, but if you look at the stuff they do, it's all the same. Like they might call it something different, whether they say they're 5%ers or whatever. They all start to do the same things, and it's because they're serving the same God of this world.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like you
Yeah.
can't claim to serve Buddha and think you're not somehow going to end up aligned with Satan. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way. There's only Christ or you're with the ways of Satan, regardless of what you call them.
There's two
Right.
masters,
Yeah.
and you can't
Yeah.
serve both of
Can't
them.
serve both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I really feel like one of the biggest things in the church now is this decree and declare and manifest everything.
Oh man.
Some people don't understand how like demonic you can open doorways
Yeah.
because you want riches, you want things of the world, and you're told not to desire those things, but yet you feel like I struggled for a little bit. Let me manifest and make
Yeah.
like a vision board, and I'm gonna manifest and think about it every day. I'm like, do you just pray and ask God if it's what you should have? Like, do
Right.
you ask him for any direction or any guidance on your life every day? Like I try to, I won't say I do with everything, but I try to ask God with literally friends, people I associate with, jobs I'm gonna take. But like, of course, you do things, but at the same time, there's times where I wait and I'm like, Lord, you know I'm gonna make a dumb decision. Like I talk to him, I'm like, God, you know I'm not the smartest person in the world. Like I
Same
don't
here.
want to make a decision that's gonna put me in a bad spot. Like help me out, give me some guidance in this area. Like I straight up ask him because he said acknowledge God in all your ways and he will
so
direct your
people
path.
actually do.
Yeah.
That part.
There's
Yeah,
a song that
yeah. I
came
mean,
out. It was like
this one.
one of the biggest songs that came out, I think last year or the year before, was a song. I think it's called Manifest or something like that. But it was supposed to be a Christian artist, and the song he says, everything, all these blessings I'm manifesting for my life, and he just says like, but it if you I heard the song and it sounds so catchy, and if you're like a carnal Christian, if you're like lukewarm, you might think he's just, but he's like worshiping money. He's like money. He's manifesting money. He's manifesting success,
Mhm.
and he don't really. He said the those things follow him wherever he goes, and it sounds like a good image, a good song. But if you really break down what he's saying, he's like glorifying the thing. He's glorifying the success.
Yeah.
From
But
whence come wars and fightings, right?
Yeah.
It says, you lust and you have not. How does he say it? He says, why didn't God give you
Yeah.
what you asked for?
Yeah.
There's a time, listen, there's times your father wants to give you good gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
You as a father want to give your child good gifts. But there are certain times when your children ask for something that you have to say no to them.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't have no problem with a believer asking for something that they need or is going to be beneficial in their life or is going to help someone or help them or help their family member. But if it's going to lead to, I think that's in James chapter 4.
It's James. Yep. I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah, so I guess that's a new movement. Is that kind of like them name it and claim it type stuff?
yeah, same thing.
Same thing? Okay.
Like this song says, this year blessings, money, testimony. They go follow you wherever you go, and like he's basically saying that, and he talks about this year good news, plenty balling. Like he's like glorifying the things you can get more than like honestly. I'm looking at the lyrics. He don't even really mention God at all in the song. Like, but people are like,
manifestation. Where's it coming from? His manifestation. Where's it coming from?
you know, I learned an interesting thing about and this is from somebody who became a believer and they were saved from witchcraft.
Okay.
And they were saying the devil can't create nothing, right? So if somebody goes to a witch and they ask for a child, where do they get it from? Well, you know, like in Daniel, it tells you that there was the angel Gabriel was bringing him this message, but there was an entity fighting him over that message, right? And Daniel, like that's why you're encouraged to pray without ceasing, fast and pray, or pray
like they always say, pray until something happens. Like sometimes if you want an answer, you just keep praying on it, trust God.
Just judge.
Well, the thing is, the guy was saying literally when he was into that stuff at night, you know, when the Bible talks about terrors of night in
Yeah.
Psalms 91. Well, the terrors of night could be a person astral projecting, and they literally steal people's blessings. And he was basically kind of explaining it like that. He said they steal blessings and they don't actually make a baby. They could steal something that you could be blessed with, and they take that and give it to someone else. And so it makes it seem like their God can do something powerful, but really they're stealing it. That's why it says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Well, the stealing part, they literally steal from believers that are asking God for certain things sometimes, because those people, if you pray like double minded, the Bible also tells you not to be double minded, because you might ask and God might really be ready to give it to you. And on his way down, you like doubt it and something can take it. So he was basically saying they used to literally do that in the spiritual realm when he was involved in the occult. They would steal people's blessings, like in different ways. They would take things like your birthright. You can sell it. Like you don't actually sell your soul because it's not yours, but you can sell like kind of like how Esau did with his birthright. You're selling something that did belong to you, and God could literally use your same gifts for the kingdom, but you sold it. So now you use it for the kingdom of darkness. And he was saying like they can't give you a baby, but sometimes they might steal that answered prayer because that person might have had a moment of doubt or something that caused it a hindrance in their prayer. And it was an interesting perspective, but like I don't really see a reason why he would lie about it, but he did connect it to certain verses and was like, this is why most of us don't understand how we're supposed to pray and why the Bible says when you pray do this and when you pray do that. But literally they try to steal things from believers all the time.
See, I don't, I don't know whether that is true or not true. I do know that Satan offered Christ the kingdoms of the world because this is what he said, because I can.
Yeah.
It was given to me.
It was
belongs.
his to give.
It's mine to give.
Yeah.
And so therefore I can offer it to you, and you can choose
To accept it or not.
or not. As a believer, you have a choice. Moses had a choice.
He did.
Joshua, as for me and my family, we will choose.
Yeah.
And so all these people who are saying they're believers, rich athletes or movie stars or singers or whatever, I'm sure there's some of them that are believers.
Yeah.
And they're choosing.
Mhm.
They're making a choice, and guess what they're choosing? They're just like Esau. They're going to choose an earthly good, a meal. They're going to choose it over their heavenly, eternal inheritance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and the Bible calls him a profane person. There's holy and there's profane.
Yeah.
Profane is the opposite.
Yeah.
You have no care about things that are sacred and holy.
Yeah. You don't. Zero.
Mhm.
And so, I just think the problem is that's getting worse and worse.
Well, it's because it's accepted.
It's accepted now.
It's socially acceptable to be to be arrogant and prideful.
Yeah.
It's socially acceptable to be a womanizer or whatever the term is for a woman. It's perfectly acceptable to be debased, to be ungodly. It's socially acceptable to be demonic.
I'll tell you something that's really like starting to. I knew years ago that it was changing,
Mm-hmm.
but we're talking about men womanizing, right?
Yes.
But women,
Oh yeah.
become
Womanizers themselves.
they're worse, I think, almost than men. And if you read in Isaiah 4 verse 1,
Hold on, I'm going there.
right? I read this verse years ago and I said, I can kind of see it. But now it's like slaps you in the face.
Yeah.
He says, that day 7 women shall
Yep.
take hold of
Yep.
one man, saying, we'll eat our own bread and wear our own apparel.
But only let us
be called by thy name. They still want a man, but they don't need a man.
They don't need a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
And
women become more perverse than men.
I'll tell you this, as somebody like recently out of college, like not too long ago, I stayed to myself because I honestly was like afraid, like because of how aggressive it would be sometimes. Because one thing for me is like, even when I was living in sin, not really thinking about the kingdom, it always felt wrong if something was too easy. And if I tell you, like, realistically, the morals with the younger generation is like, well, I can't even say it's the younger generation because I'm seeing older women trying to compete with the younger women. But it's not just the women, but I'm saying because I'm a male and I wasn't chasing men. So I'm speaking about the women in that aspect. They literally, it was exactly that verse. They don't want you to do anything for them. They'll say they'll pay for everything. I held the door for a lady once and she got mad at me because she was struggling with a box and I held the door and she said, "You don't think I can do it because I'm a woman?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I shut the door. And then the next time I saw her with a box, I used to work with trucks and unloading. She said, "Wow, you're really not going to open the door?" The second time.
No,
So
you
I
got
was just sitting there like, what do you want me to do? But
no,
that's the mindset in this generation. Some of them, they will fight any man. Like it's like they have something to prove. I'll go punch any guy in the face. You're like, all right, that guy might not be the one who might hold back. Or it's like,
Yeah.
they're proud that they're known as the girl that everybody's had. And it's like, that's like a badge of honor to them. And
Or
it's,
they'll
it's
dress like a
wild.
harlot. They'll dress like a harlot, and then they'll want to know. Then they'll yell at you because you're
because you
staring
paid
at them.
attention.
They're
Mhm.
doing it for the attention, but they're the only ones that can choose which person
Who
is
they
going
get
to
the attention from.
The
Yeah.
sad part is happening in churches.
Bro,
That's like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine how some pastors.
it's happening in those buildings.
Those buildings,
Churches.
they're not churches,
Oh, yeah.
they're buildings.
They're
So
not
just-
churches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there's only one church. Like to me, there's one body of Christ. But
They want
like, I started referring to it as the body of Christ. But when I'm talking about the buildings, it seemed like they just had hijacked the word, and
They-
so that's why I say that. But yeah, like, I've been to some different buildings where I'm in there and I'm like, you probably wore that last night and just came to church. You probably went to church with what you had on at the club last night.
That part.
And if you like,
Exactly.
and the crazy thing is, like, you don't know where to look because it's like, oh, why are you looking at me? Like, you're lusting. It's like, I mean, technically, I wouldn't be if you were wearing something else. I'm not looking at the lady over there with a choir robe on, like, realistically, but that's the generation we live in. It's like you can't tell them nothing. And that's like the most dangerous part. You can't say nothing about it, or else you're like itemizing them, you're treating them like meat or something, and that's literally what they say. But they want you to treat them like that, but they don't want you to say it. And it's weird because once you say it, you're the bad guy. But if you treat them the way that, and without saying it, they love it.
You know what? And I'm not. I don't want to go on a slamming women because I'm the chief of sinners. But I know the way it was back when I was in the world and I was going out. This is what women would say. They would say, "I just want a man that tells the truth," and that was a lie.
No, it's not true.
Yeah, they don't want a man matter of fact, most human beings don't want to be around people that tell the truth.
Let me read this here, right? And it's this, obviously if you've been listening to this segment for a minute, you know that we're all over the place. But I want to read this out of Deuteronomy 28. This concerns our people, Hebrews, right? Talking about women. verse 56. It says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secretly in the siege and straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. The point that I'm making is this here. Women will doll themselves up. Our women, Hebrew women, Israelite women, will doll themselves up. They will move and carry themselves so delicately, and yet their eyes are evil. They're evil toward their husband if they're married. They're evil toward their children, right? And this seems to characterize our women in this day and age. And it's not mean-mouthed women. It's just that these are the characteristics of our women in this time. You'll note that this is in Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 is all about the curses. This is a curse. This is a product of the curse.
Yeah, and another thing is, it's like us men, we have our faults and we have our downfalls, but it's because that role has been
Reverse.
that God said has switched. And the reality is, look at who's the most famous women right now. They're all promoting that lifestyle, but they all, and the crazy thing is, I said this a few years ago, Kim Kardashian, she always has a man, but they talk about how much they don't need one, and all these women making songs about not needing one, they always have a husband. Like Meg Thee Stallion was like one of the biggest ones, and she was like promoting like being a hot girl and doing whatever you want, but she had a boyfriend the whole time. And it's like she was promoting this image of single women do this, but she had, so it's like they're tricking the average person. They know it doesn't really work.
It doesn't.
Especially like going through an industry full of men that's male dominant. If you don't have some kind of men around you to kind of protect you, the industry's gonna like eat them up.
All your protection.
Mhm.
I'm my own. I am woman. Hear me roar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like this whole reversal. It does play in, like, we are over the place, but it does play into that whole agenda that we spoke about before with this. And in the last days, that is a part of the one world system. And it like, I've heard two things, and I want to know what you think, because it says in Daniel, when it talks about the son of perdition or not having a desire for women, some people say that means he's going to be a gay person, right? Or he's not going to like women, like be attracted to them. But another perspective that I heard was that it could mean not having a desire for women could also mean like not seeing them as equal, like in the sense of like you don't have rights, like you don't have. And if you think about it, the more like men they become, the more their rights are really being taken away. Because what's happening now that we're seeing all over the place? Well, now this athlete is a male and he's dominating women's sports. So you don't even have your own awards anymore. Men are winning your awards. They're beating you at your sports. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for like, I can be who I want to be. And if you can be who you want to be, this man can be who he wants to be. And now he's taking your position.
Exactly.
And he's the woman of the year was a man a couple years ago. Like, the woman of the year was a dude. Like, you don't even win beauty pageants anymore. Miss America was a guy like recently. I'm like, they're taking over in every single aspect, and maybe that's one of the ways that it will happen too, because it's like the more you independent you become without that head covering, it becomes to the point where now you're just out there for the wolves in a way, and it destroys everything ultimately, because that's exactly like Eve. She went, like, Adam was there, but Eve went past what she knew, like Adam had told her, because remember, God told Adam, and Adam was to tell Eve, and she clearly heard something. She went past what Adam told her, and she decided to do that. And it's just crazy. And if this is the part about men, I do have to say, when I got married, a lot of men said, if I have to give you any advice, the woman's always right. I'm like, so you would do the same thing Adam did. I'm like, you would probably sit back and fall for the same thing because,
Happy
like,
life, happy life, right?
yeah, and it's like, but the truth is, sometimes her being mad at you for a few 30 minutes could be a spiritual like protection because you might be like, I don't want to hear it, so do what you want. And like there's been several times, there's several examples in the Bible where the man didn't take his role and they were in trouble. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't agree with that all the way for
I
based
don't
on what
agree
I
with
read.
Yeah.
because
No, no,
all
no.
of my friends, well, I don't really, not really Lewis, but all my other friends are like, well, that's why you're not married. I said, well, and guess what? That's why unless if I can find a woman who will love the Lord as much as I do,
Yeah.
if I can find a
Or
woman or more,
Or more.
and I can find a woman who cares about the truth and doesn't care about this world,
Yeah.
the stuff of this world,
Yeah.
then
That's a win.
I'll get married.
Yeah.
If I find her and I'm attracted to her, I will marry. I will get married again. But I am not. What happened to Solomon?
Can't be loved many things.
You think I'm better than Solomon?
Not at all. Not
And
at
that's
all.
what I'm
I marry
saying is,
a woman. If I marry a woman like that, he married 400 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It only takes
Just say
one.
Just the one.
and that's
And
the thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're afraid to speak up and take the authority that God has given you as a man, like in reality, that's a big part of why it is the way it is. Like men step down from the authority, the role that God has given them, and this whole system collapsed. First of all, from a man, like who knows what could have happened if Adam would have been like
Adam did not.
rebuked her.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: is it says that Christ is the head of the man, and the man's the head of the woman. Their eyes didn't open when she took of the fruit.
Did not.
Yeah.
Their eyes were they realized they were naked when he took. If you go and you look at a situation, I'm trying to think of another. Okay, Noah.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't say that Noah's wife and his three sons and their three wives were righteous.
No.
It says Noah alone.
Yeah.
He was the head.
Yeah.
And God saved all of them. Lot,
Rahab.
one person righteous. Rahab,
One
person righteous. But he saved. Oh, if you know what, Rahab, if they're in your house, guess what? I'll save them.
I'll save them. Otherwise, they're dead.
So the man by like giving into that is not just putting his own soul at risk. He's risking all the souls that are under his roof.
Yeah.
Under his headship, authority.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like most people forget the power of prayer because I'll be honest, like in my marriage personally, like we pray all the time. We pray every night. We read every night. But one thing I do alone is I pray for her because like some things, if I don't know how to say it properly, I'm like, Father, give me the words to say. Like I ask him because, and sometimes it's something I'll read. Sometimes it's through conversation with somebody wiser than myself. But most of the times, and I will say most of the times, is when I have prayed for her, it'll be something I had a concern about, and God will just change that in her heart on her own, like without me having to really push and get into that. Oh, now we're arguing over something, and it's like, but I feel like I do speak up every time when I see it wrong. I'm that watchman. I look out and I'm like, I'm gonna speak on it, but sometimes I know that the way I say it might not always come out the best. So I'm like, Lord, I don't even want to get into it today. But if I don't have the way to say it, then I pray that you will speak to her, like touch her heart, because I don't think we do that enough sometimes. And I promise you, every time I've done that, we can come and have a conversation. There's an understanding every time, but there's sometimes it's like I know sometimes it is the enemy that causes, like he wants this division in the house, and he wants the house divided. But like when I start to sense that, I just go to God and I'm like, God, I don't really know how to say this the right way. So handle that for me, please. And he will do it. And I think that's one thing that a lot of believers need to remember. God will handle situations for you or give you wisdom to handle it the right way. Um, but yeah, I, if it's something I can say for next time, I think some topics that we can speak on. One, I think we don't talk about the supernatural part of our faith
Mm.
enough, because I feel like in these upcoming years, days, months, whatever it may be, I feel like people are going to start seeing things, and a lot of believers aren't going to have an answer because they're not equipped. But like, you can't show me a chapter in the Bible where something spiritual didn't happen, where something supernatural is not involved. It's throughout the whole entire book, even in Leviticus. Like, his presence came in a cloud, and that's not normal. So it's
Right.
like, but the Ephesians 6 thing, like the battle that we go through, the spiritual part, our real selves in that spiritual realm,
Mm.
the part that will go on after. We don't
Yeah.
talk about that enough, and I feel like that can be a topic we can touch, because there are some things that I can tell you I know a lot of men and women go through, and they probably never talk about it. And one of the things, I'll just say it real quick, is there's something they call a night husband or night wife. And in the Bible, um, it does, like, I feel like throughout a lot of cultures, they talk about these spirits that come at night and they like press down on people. And the thing is, there is something to it. There, like, they try to give it a scientific term and call it sleep paralysis, but there's something deeper to in it. If you read Psalms 4, it's a psalm about like sleep, before you sleep. And most people don't really consider why it's important to pray when you're in a vulnerable state. When you're sleeping, you're vulnerable. And that's why a lot of the times you might get nightmares. But like in the daytime, you if you are having nightmares while you're awake, like, that's another level.
That's
But
enough.
most people is while they're sleeping, because that's a point of attack. You're vulnerable. But like, I can't control, every time I've had a dream, I haven't really been able to control the dream. It just happens. I just see things. But I feel like we don't talk about that aspect enough about the faith, where like, because it's intermingled with our physical life. Like, even the average, when the word says it's not like we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, a person that might come down and yell at you down the street, sometimes it's not just a person having a bad day. Sometimes it's something else. And we should talk about that. But another thing is, since we're on the topic of the last days, um, just really connecting the things that we already spoke about to things that we kind of see. And I know it's hard to do it because it could seem like one thing but be another. But I think there's enough of certain things happening where we can be like, okay, this is where you connect this to that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like the Berlin Wall was in Leviticus, or like try to put it
Right.
somewhere. But I mean, like the signs that most people are not paying attention to, the earthquakes. There was an earthquake in New York. Like, I heard the DMV area had earthquakes, and Jersey had one. There was one in Miami a few years ago, and we never had earthquakes when I was in Florida. Like, but things like that, I don't think people are paying attention, because it has something to do with the awakening as well. And it's like, it's not a coincidence that as more of this comes out, there's more earthquakes in diverse places. So
Well, I think the earth groaneth and travaileth in birth, right?
Yeah.
And earthquakes are part of that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Volcanoes erupting are part of that. And really, it's going to be like a labor pain.
Yeah.
It's going to be a more intense, like a woman delivers,
As you
more
get,
intense and closer together.
yeah.
yep,
It's going to, you're going to start seeing more of them and just really intense. And so it's something that you have to kind of,
Pay attention to.
you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to it. So
Yeah. Well, hey, I need to drop. It's I
Yeah.
got to get ready for. I got to go to work in the morning.
Yeah. So I got to drive about an
And
hour
you
back.
have to drive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Well, peace and blessings to you both.
I will. I'll at least talk to you one more time. I'm leaving Sunday night for the Philippines.
Okay.
So, but I'll try to catch you at least one more time before I go. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I work here, so
Good stuff.
whenever you need to call, man, I'm available.
Okay.
All right.
Lewis, I guess if his schedule is different, we can do something with us here.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
him. So
Yeah.
just keep it
Absolutely.
pushing. Yeah.
I'm 12 hours. I'll be basically 12, 13 hours
12
different.
plus,
So
right?
if y'all are at night, it just means I got to get up in the morning and turn on the
And
computer.
on the
So,
computer. Okay.
so
I'll
it's,
be honest, my sleep schedule's messed up, and I kind of go to sleep around like it because it's only 9 here. But I go to sleep around like 2 or 3 just because that's what I've been doing, working that night shift. So that's what I'm normally doing. I'm studying. That's why I have a lot of time to watch a video. I'm
Well,
you
you're
know, I
up.
can't sleep. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll write notes. I have something interesting I want to talk to you about that I discovered in Leviticus actually, and it has to do with sacrifices and the connection to one of the things we discussed in Revelation.
Revelation.
Mhm.
okay. All right. Sounds cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, you be saying like you're still driving yourself. So,
Yeah, I got about 5 more minutes until I'm at the house.
okay. All right.
All right, Jay. Well, y'all you take care, man, and
Yep. Blessings
And-
upon y'all.
I will definitely. Yeah, I will definitely. Once I get in the Philippines and get settled down, I'll make sure we get a routine where I can talk to you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Yeah. It's great to finally meet again. It seems like it's been a while, man.
Wow. It's been a while.
yeah, that's all right, man. It was good. I enjoyed it. So,
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Grace and peace, guys.
All right. God
Peace and
bless.
blessings.